Chapter 3784. Alright, let's do it this way. I'll synchronize it, equivalent to a live broadcast. I'll use live broadcast in the future. It's easier to understand. Several youths took out the illusory divine jade. The illusory divine jade glowed and faced Lu Ming. The illusory divine jade could be recorded and transmitted. It could also be broadcasted live. Others could see it directly through the illusory divine jade. At this moment, countless geniuses of the primitive universe saw Lu Ming's image through the illusory divine jade. Is it very ordinary? What race is it? It seems to be a human. I really don't know what kind of luck this person has. He actually has an engagement with Princess Yue. The key is that this person rejected it. I'm so angry. Many people were discussing. The more they looked at Lu Ming, the angrier they became. They were looking forward to Lu Ming being suppressed. Boom. At this moment, the youth with two noses stepped forward and pressed towards Lu Ming. The aura of an 8th-level divine lord continuously erupted. Kid, kneel down. In front of the whole world, admit that you're not worthy of Princess Yue. Admit that you're trash. The youth with two noses said coldly. This scheme of his was truly vicious. If Lu Ming said so in front of the whole world, then he would lose all face. Even if he had an engagement with Ling Yue, the elf race would definitely not let Ling Yue marry Lu Ming. Marrying such a person was equally shameful for the elf race. Alright. The other geniuses secretly applauded, secretly praising what a good plan. Of course, there was also someone who was secretly anxious. That was Qi Ping. What an idiot, a mere 8th-level divine lord. Qi Ping scolded the youth with two noses. Lu Ming was an existence who had defeated the Purple Sun state. You're just an 8th-level divine lord, yet you're so arrogant now. When you're beaten up later, not only will Lu Ming not lose face, but his reputation will also soar. However, he couldn't rush out to remind him now. Is there something wrong with your head? Lu Ming indifferently glanced at the youth with two noses. Kid, it seems like you don't agree. Then kneel down. Murderous intent flashed in the two-nosed young man's eyes. His god force erupted as he struck out with his palm. A huge palm formed and pressed down on Lu Ming. It wanted to force Lu Ming to his knees and humiliate Lu Ming in front of the whole world. However, Lu Ming stood there motionless, allowing the palm to press down on him. He looked like he was petrified. Oh look, that kid is stunned. He's probably scared out of his wits. He even forgot to dodge. He's probably locked onto by the aura. You'll know whether an expert is capable or not the moment he makes a move. You'll know whether he's capable or not the moment he makes a move. That person even asked someone to boast in the illusory space that he defeated the Purple Sun Prefecture. What a joke. That's right. The sky prides of the various clans who were watching the live broadcast through the illusory space began to discuss among themselves. Sending a message through the dreamscape didn't need to be written word by word. Instead, the message could be sent with just a thought. Because of this, the communication speed was very fast. It was even faster than the time it took to communicate with mouth. At this moment, the communication between these people came to an abrupt end. This was because just as the huge palm was about to press down on Lu Ming made his move. Boom! Lu Ming casually slashed out with his palm. A dazzling sword radiance burst out and the palm of the two-nosed young man was easily sliced apart. You're quite capable. Then, let's see how you're going to deal with this move. The two-nosed young man roared angrily. His two noses enlarged and his nostrils became several times larger. Two consecutive roars erupted from his nostrils and formed a terrifying pressure that pressed down on Lu Ming. This was a sound wave attack. The two-nosed young man had already used his trump card. The pressure was so terrifying that it caused the space to explode continuously. It formed a pitch-black space that seemed to be able to crush everything. However, this attack might be terrifying to others, but it was nothing to Lu Ming. Swoosh! Lu Ming dashed out directly, facing the terrifying pressure and dashing into it. The terrifying pressure was like a gentle breeze that did not cause any damage to Lu Ming. Lu Ming rushed through and arrived in front of the two-nosed young man in an instant. The distance between the two of them was only a few centimeters and they almost collided. The two-nosed young man was stunned. His eyes were wide open and the nostrils of his two nostrils expanded. For a moment he actually forgot to retreat. Bam! Lu Ming slapped out and slapped the two-nosed young man's face. With a shrill scream, the two-nosed young man was sent flying tens of thousands of meters away and spun tens of thousands of rounds in the air. When he stopped, he was completely dizzy. His two noses were completely deformed and squeezed together, becoming one. His face was distorted beyond recognition, and blood kept flowing out of his mouth. He couldn't even fly and fell to the ground. He was caught by another genius. Otherwise, he would be in a worse state. The scene, as well as those geniuses watching through the dream space, quietened down all at once. Lu Ming actually one-shot the two-nosed young man in one move. One had to know Lu Ming was just a 6th-level Divine Lord, while the two-nosed young man was an 8th-level Divine Lord. A full 2 realms difference, and he was actually so weak. Just one move and it unavoidably aroused these people's attention on Lu Ming. Putting aside whether the matter of Lu Ming defeating the Violet Yangzhou in the dream space previously was true or not, just Lu Ming being able to defeat the two-nosed young man now was sufficient to show how terrifying Lu Ming's talent was. A mere Fengdu sword sect actually had such a person? Humph, talent is not bad. But wanting to match up to Princess Yue, it's still too far away. That's right. Furthermore, his attitude is so arrogant, looking down on everyone. No matter how good his talent is, he's also just a 6th-level Divine Lord. The next instant, some people snorted coldly, the cold light in their eyes becoming even stronger. I'll suppress him. Another young man stepped out. This young man had a tall and sturdy build. Although his appearance was not very handsome, he had a masculine aura. Behind him, there was a tail that was the most eye-catching. A powerful aura erupted from this young man's body, spreading over toward Lu Ming. However, it did not have the slightest impact on Lu Ming. Quasi-Emperor, is it? Lu Ming muttered, his eyes flashing. This was a Quasi-Emperor level Heaven's Chosen. Clearly, seeing the two-nosed young man being easily defeated, the other 8th-level Divine Lord and 9th-level Divine Lord existences did not dare to make a move for a moment, lacking confidence. It was the safest for a Quasi-Emperor level Heaven's Chosen to take action. Come on, bring out your strongest strength. Otherwise, that two-nosed young man will be your outcome. Lu Ming said. Impudent, kill. The burly young man gave a loud bellow and suddenly took a step out. He just took a step out, but his speed was astonishingly fast. In an instant he appeared in front of Lu Ming. His pair of fingers grew sharp nails. This person's original form should be a raccoon. These were raccoon claws. Chapter 3785. Chi-Chi. His claw was like a heavenly blade that tore through the void and grabbed at Lu Ming's neck. Not bad, but it's still far from being comparable to Xiangzhou and Feng Peng. Lu Ming could sense the opponent's strength as soon as he made a move. With such strength, Lu Ming didn't even need to activate the battle character art. He used his finger like a sword and stabbed out a few times. Lu Ming attacked first and tapped at the burly youth's palm. The burly youth's expression changed. He clenched his claw and used his sharp fingernails to meet Lu Ming's finger. The two attacks collided. Break! There was a chilling glint in the burly young man's eyes. His fingernails were sharper than divine weapons. Lu Ming actually used his fingers to fight head-on with him. He was simply asking for a beating. He wanted to sever Lu Ming's fingers in an instant. However, at the moment of collision, the burly young man's expression changed. He felt that Lu Ming's fingers were harder than divine metal. His fingernails cut the surface of Lu Ming's fingers, but they did not move at all. On the contrary, his fingernails made creaking sounds and became deformed. In the end, they even broke with a few cracking sounds. Not good. The burly youth's expression changed and he quickly retreated. It's too late to retreat now. Lu Ming was faster than him. He followed closely behind the burly youth. Now's the time. Originally, the burly youth was retreating with panic on his face. But at this moment his panic completely disappeared. Instead, he revealed a sinister smile. Behind the burly youth, a black shadow stabbed at Lu Ming. It was faster than a steel whip and sharper than a divine sword. It was the tale of the burly youth. Origin source secret technique. Lu Ming didn't need to look to know that this was the burly youth's origin source secret technique. It turned out that this person's origin source secret technique was hidden in the tale. He hadn't used it before so that he could catch Lu Ming off guard and take him down. Unfortunately, Lu Ming wasn't an ordinary person. He had underestimated Lu Ming. Interesting. Lu Ming's expression didn't change at all. He still had a faint smile on his face. In an instant, he activated the battle character incantation and doubled his battle prowess, increasing his strength and the speed of his palm. With a sudden grab, he grabbed the burly young man's tail, preventing him from moving. Not good. This time, the burly youth's complexion changed greatly. His sudden attack was his strongest attack, but it didn't affect Lu Ming at all. Instead, it was easily caught by Lu Ming. Furthermore, he felt that Lu Ming's hand was as steady as an inextinguishable star. His tail couldn't move in the slightest. "Let go of me!" The burly young man roared, and his fists suddenly blasted towards Lu Ming's head. Humph! Lu Ming coldly harumphed and suddenly exerted strength, grabbing the burly youth's tail and swinging it around. Berserk energy surged through the burly youth's tail, causing him to feel his entire body go soft and unable to exert any strength. He was swung around by Lu Ming. Huff, huff, huff. Lu Ming picked up the burly youth with one hand and suddenly spun him. In an instant, he spun at least a few 100,000 times. Such a high frequency of spinning was extremely terrifying. It caused the air and space to become a great killing weapon. They rubbed against the burly youth and turned into terrifying energy that bombarded his body. Kachakat. The burly youth's muscles were torn and his bones were broken. Blood kept oozing out of his nose and mouth. In the end, Lu Ming threw him out. He crashed heavily on the ground, creating a huge crater. The burly youth lay in the crater, unable to move at all. This time, the Sky Prides at the scene and the Sky Prides who were watching the live broadcast through the illusory divine jade were all stunned. Previously, Lu Ming had defeated two nosed youths. It was still acceptable. After all, the gap between the two wasn't particularly shocking. But now it was shocking. Lu Ming, with his 6th-level Divine Lord cultivation, had crossed 4 realms and defeated a quasi-emperor level Sky Pride. Such battle prowess was truly terrifying. Could it be that the illusory divine jade said that Mu Yun had really defeated Xiangzhou? Such a thought appeared in everyone's mind. Immediately, someone who knew Xiangzhou passed the news to him. Xiangzhou didn't deny it and admitted it generously. Once the news was out, there was an uproar in the illusory divine space. The news from before was actually true. Mu Yun had actually defeated the Xiang prefecture. Xiangzhou wasn't the burly youth from before. Xiangzhou had a certain reputation in the circle of quasi-emperors in the entire primitive universe. His combat strength was so strong that he could cross realms and kill ordinary divine emperors. Such a person had actually been defeated by Mu Yun. Didn't that mean that Mu Yun could kill ordinary 1st-level divine emperors with his 6th-level divine lord cultivation? Heaven-defying. A phrase appeared in everyone's mind. They didn't expect that such a person would appear in the small Fengdu sword sect. It was really heaven-defying. Even the seniors of many major races and forces were alarmed. They watched the situation on Lu Ming's side through the illusory divine jade. This kid does have some strength. Are we going to let him go just like that? That's right. Are we going to let him humiliate Princess Yue just like that? Unforgivable. In the illusory divine jade, some of Ling Yue's pursuers or people with ulterior motives spoke up to provoke the crowd. That's right. Today, we came with a lot of people. If we were beaten back by this kid, it would be embarrassing. At the scene, another young man spoke up. This young man was dressed in a gray robe and carried an iron saber on his back. He was like an unsheathed saber. Of course we can't go back just like that. Interesting. My hands are itching. Who will do it? Another young man in a yellow robe looked at the young man with the saber. Let me do it. I want to see how he can defeat Xiangzhou. After the young man with the saber finished speaking, he stepped forward. Buzz. The saber that was originally quiet jumped and was held in the young man's hand. Suddenly, A saber light broke through the clouds and rushed into the starry sky. The broken saber of the Divine Saber clan is going to make a move. Many people's eyes lit up. The Divine Saber clan's ranking in the Great Desolate 10,000 clans was not high. They were only ranked 2398. They were far inferior to the Xing clan. However, it did not mean that there were no terrifying monsters just because their ranking was inferior. The broken saber was a terrifying monster. In the circle of quasi-emperors, his reputation was greater than that of Zhangzhou. It was said that he was also stronger. Everyone was looking forward to seeing how Lu Ming defeated Zhangzhou with his 6th-level Divine Lord Realm strength. The broken saber would definitely be able to force out all of Lu Ming's strength. Bang! The broken saber stepped out and stepped on the void. Heaven and earth trembled violently. Dense saber lights surged toward Lu Ming. The snow-white saber lights were densely packed, almost drowning Lu Ming. There were tens of thousands of them. Chapter 3786. The densely packed blade auras rushed towards Lu Ming, but Lu Ming threw out a punch. The violent fist force crushed the void and everything in front of him exploded. All the blade auras were drowned by the void and disappeared without a trace. "You don't have to test me. Just use your full strength," Lu Ming said. As he spoke, Lu Ming had already activated the Battle Character Sutra to increase his combat strength by 5 times. This broken knife gave him a lot of pressure, as if he was facing the Xiang Prefecture. Therefore, Lu Ming did not dare to be careless. "Indeed, I have made an unnecessary move. You have the right to make me use my full strength." As Broken Knife's eyes opened and closed, rays of dazzling blade auras burst out. The aura on his body continued to surge. A dazzling blade shadow rushed out from between his eyebrows and merged with the iron blade in his hand. This was Broken Knife's ultimate secret technique. Shattering iron blade, slash. Broken Knife roared and slashed out with his blade. A shocking saber gleam slashed toward the top of Lu Ming's head. The void was split open. The terrifying saber gleam, along with everything, fell toward Lu Ming. However, this was not the end. When Broken Knife slashed out, he moved and rushed towards Lu Ming. He changed his blade aura and slashed out horizontally. A horizontal blade aura slashed towards Lu Ming. It formed a cross with the previous blade aura and slashed towards Lu Ming. The blade aura was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it was close to Lu Ming. Gravity Orb. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He activated the gravity orb and a powerful gravitational force burst out, enveloping the vast void. Buzz buzz. The 2 blade auras were pressed down by the gravitational force and immediately vibrated. Following which, Lu Ming brandished his fists and bombarded the 2 saber gleams. The saber gleams vibrated and dispersed. What powerful strength! All of the remaining prodigies present, as well as the prodigies of the various races who were watching the battle through the illusory divine jade, as well as some of the older generation figures, were all stunned. The fact that Zhang Xian was able to overcome the attack of the small knife so easily showed that his fighting prowess was frightening. He was much stronger than the burly young man whom he had dealt with previously. Obviously, Lu Ming hadn't used his full strength just now. Amazing! Again. Xiao Dao roared and approached Lu Ming. Xiao Dao unceasingly chopped towards Lu Ming. The attack of the saber technique was direct, domineering, and powerful. The dazzling saber light emitted a terrifying whistling sound as it chopped towards Lu Ming, sealing off all of Lu Ming's paths of retreat, forcing Lu Ming to take it head-on. Lu Ming controlled the gravity orb, and the powerful pressure constantly pressed down on Xiao Dao, forcing him to circulate his divine power to resist the gravity. Boom! Lu Ming clenched his fists and mobilized all of his cells, activating the secret skills in all of them. These secret skills gathered together and turned into 2 balls that wrapped around Lu Ming's fists. Lu Ming used his fists to resist Xiao Dao's saber. The 2 of them exchanged dozens of blows in the blink of an eye. What a powerful attack! It's even stronger than the attack from the Purple Sun State. Lu Ming was also shocked. There were indeed many prodigies in the Eldritch universe. He couldn't underestimate anyone. Xiao Dao's saber technique was extremely domineering and powerful. It was even more powerful than the East-rising purple chi art from the Purple Sun state. Xiao Dao's ability to fight head-on was even stronger. However, Lu Ming was also slightly stronger than when he had fought against the Purple Sun state. Firstly, his cultivation level had become more stable. Secondly, during this period of time, he had cultivated some secret skills and integrated them into his cells. He now controlled a total of 550 kinds of secret skills. Although he hadn't fully comprehended these secret skills yet, under the effect of the taboo power, their power was also very shocking. But in the battle against Xiao Dao, he didn't have much of an advantage. The two of them fought fiercely. Everyone watched quietly in the surroundings. They couldn't calm down. Hearing about it was one thing, but seeing it with their own eyes was another. Previously, when they heard that Lu Ming could defeat the Purple Sun state, no one believed it at first. Later, when the Purple Sun state admitted it personally, although they believed it, they weren't that shocked. At this moment, seeing Lu Ming fight to a draw with Xiao Dao, who was stronger than the Purple Sun state with his 6th level Divine Lord cultivation, that kind of shock was difficult to describe with words. Such combat strength is too unbelievable. Do the top monsters in the top 10 races have such combat strength? Someone expressed such an opinion in the dream space. However, no one answered. The top 10 races were all extraordinarily talented. Those top monsters, their combat strength was even ridiculously strong. But were they so strong? A 6th level Divine Lord fought to a draw with Xiao Dao, who was also a monstrous genius? Could it be done? Everyone expressed their doubts. Perhaps, another monster with the ability to suppress the top 10 races was born. For generations, in the competition of the younger generation, the monsters of the top 10 races undoubtedly suppressed all heroes. They suppressed the other races' geniuses with invincibility until they couldn't breathe. They were synonymous with invincibility. But there were exceptions to everything. There would always be times when those weaker races would give birth to undefeatable geniuses. Those geniuses were all outstanding geniuses. They came from weak races, but they were able to rise against the trend, trampling the top geniuses of the top 10 races beneath their feet, becoming undefeatable. There weren't many such people, but there wouldn't be a lack of them. They felt that Lu Ming had such an attitude. Amidst everyone's complicated thoughts, Lu Ming and Xiao Dao had already exchanged more than 100 moves. The two of them didn't have any superfluous tricks, both meeting force with force, directly clashing head-on. Every move was done with all their strength. This kind of fighting method consumed a lot of divine power. Especially for Xiao Dao, it was even more so. Saber Dao required one to press forward with indomitable will and go all out. Every saber was the strongest saber. Every saber was a saber to kill. There was no way out. But in this case, the speed of consuming divine power was even more astonishing. Moreover, Xiao Dao still needed to circulate divine power to resist the suppression of the gravity pearl. The consumption of divine power was even greater. After more than 100 moves, Xiao Dao was already covered in sweat, his breathing heavy. The power of his saber had already begun to weaken. Xiao Dao is in danger. Many people could see that Xiao Dao was about to lose. Once a saber practitioner went all out and couldn't kill, then what awaited was to be killed. A saber practitioner's momentum was the most terrifying, but it also weakened quickly. You're the one who lost. Lu Ming roared, his fists constantly blasting out. Clang, clang. His unparalleled fists bombarded Xiao Dao's war saber, causing his war saber to vibrate incessantly. Xiao Dao retreated rapidly, blood seeping out of his hand. As soon as he retreated, Lu Ming's attacks were even more ferocious. After a few more moves, Xiao Dao finally couldn't block Lu Ming's attacks and was bombarded by Lu Ming's fist. Xiao Dao was sent flying, a bloody hole exploding in his body. Half of his body almost exploded. He was severely injured. Chapter 3787. Although the attack power of the broken knife was strong, its defense was not as good as that of the Violet Sun Prefecture. After being hit by Lu Ming's attack, it was immediately severely injured. You've lost. Lu Ming did not continue to chase after him as he spoke coldly. Damn it. Many people roared. As for Qi Ping, who was hiding in the dark, he was even more furious as he roared. He originally wanted to torture Lu Ming, but instead, he made Lu Ming famous. He was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. Fight, fight. There are so many geniuses in the world. Even if you defeat a few, there will be more behind you. There will definitely be stronger geniuses coming to find trouble with this brat. Qi Ping comforted himself. Xiao Dao's face was dejected. He did not continue fighting and turned into a ray of saber light as he left the place. Is there anyone else who wants to fight? Lu Ming's gaze swept across the surroundings like two sharp divine swords. Everyone who was swept by his gaze had a change in expression. Some did not dare to look Lu Ming in the eye. Amongst the dozens of people who came this time, Xiao Dao was one of the strongest. Although there were still a few who could compete with Xiao Dao, even Xiao Dao had been defeated. If they went up, they would probably be in danger as well. For a moment, no one accepted the challenge. They even wanted to rush forward and suppress Lu Ming together. However, it was just a thought. He really couldn't do it. What was their purpose in coming to Lu Ming? It was for the elf princess, Ling Yue. It was to suppress Lu Ming in front of Ling Yue and let Ling Yue know that Lu Ming was trash and not worthy of him. If they joined forces, then their reputation would be tarnished. From then on, they would not be able to raise their heads in front of Lu Ming. Instead, they would raise Lu Ming even more. They were sure that Ling Yue was also using the Dream Jade to watch. They were not wrong. Ling Yue was indeed using the Dream Jade to watch. On a remote planet, in an elegant courtyard, an astonishingly beautiful fairy woman was looking at something through the dreamy divine jade. This astonishingly beautiful woman was the elf princess, Ling Yue, one of the 20 pearls of the great desolate universe. The dream jade shone, projecting a picture into the air. The person in the image was Lu Ming. Beside Ling Yue, the wandering spirit who had gone to see Lu Ming before stood quietly. On the other side, there was an old elf woman. Not bad. I didn't expect Mu Yun to have such talent. Seeing that Lu Ming had defeated Broken Knife, the old elf woman exclaimed in admiration. He does have some talent, but he's too arrogant. I've already said before that it's Miss who wants to marry him, but he actually looked unwilling and made all sorts of excuses. He's arrogant and has his eyes on the top of his head. His future achievements will be limited. Yu Ling said unhappily. She still held a grudge against Lu Ming. Miss, although you have a marriage agreement with Mu Yun, that was many years ago. Moreover, Mu Yun didn't take the initiative to look for you. Why do you want to take the initiative to marry him? Then, Wandering Spirit looked at Ling Yue and asked curiously. Yu Ling, don't ask what you shouldn't ask. On the side, the old elf woman glared at Yu Ling. Yu Ling didn't know, but she did. Ling Yue's father, the current elf clan leader, intended to marry Ling Yue to a peerless monster from the top 10 races, the Angel clan, for a marriage alliance. However, Ling Yue was unwilling. Although that monster from the Angel clan had astonishing talent and an unquestionable background, she had inquired about him. That person was too fickle and had a bad reputation. Ling Yue would never marry such a person. However, it was hard for her to refuse her father. Therefore, she thought of the fiancé she had never met before. This time, she came to the Iron Sea Star Field Group to see the fiancé she had never met before, Mu Yun. Originally, she wanted to use force to force Mu Yun to fake a marriage with her. This way, she wouldn't have to marry the genius of the Angel clan. When she arrived, she happened to encounter the Resource Alliance. Out of curiosity, she went to take a look. Unexpectedly, when he was at the Resource Alliance, he actually saw Lu Ming and was shocked by Lu Ming's battle prowess. After asking around, he found out that Lu Ming's name was Mu Yun, and he came from the Fengdu sword sect. This was too much of a coincidence. Of course, this also made Ling Yue change her mind slightly. Lu Ming's talent also moved her a little. At the very least, it was better than that genius from the Angel clan. In addition, she had another purpose, which was why she had asked Wandering Spirit to go over and say that she wanted to marry Lu Ming. However, she didn't expect that Lu Ming would actually disagree. After that, the matter would become so big that it gradually got out of her control. Just watch. I hope that this Mu Yun will bring me an even bigger surprise. Ling Yuwei's eyes flickered a few times as she smiled sweetly like 100 flowers blooming. Even the Wandering Spirit and the old woman from the elf clan were stunned. Wandering Spirit was considered very beautiful. In the various races of the great desolate universe, they were all top-notch beauties. However, standing beside Ling Yuwei, they were overshadowed. Fengdu Planet, Lu Ming's residence. For a moment, no one dared to accept the challenge. I know that you guys are here because of the elf princess, but I'll say it again. I have no intention of marrying the elf princess. I already have someone in my heart. If you guys want to pursue the elf princess, you guys can pursue her yourselves. If you don't have the ability to pursue her, then what do you mean by coming here to bother me? Lu Ming said loudly. Lu Ming's words were heard by many people through the Dream Jade. Lu Ming once again rejected Ling Yuwei in public. This made countless geniuses envious and jealous. The elf princess took the initiative to marry him, but he actually rejected her. Many people were so envious that they were about to go crazy. If it were them, they would wake up laughing in their dreams. Look, this brat is arrogant. I'm not wrong, am I? On a remote planet, Wandering Spirit was so angry that her face turned pale. She stared hatefully at Lu Ming on the screen. Interesting. The elf princess wasn't angry. She smiled lightly, but no one knew what she was thinking. This brat is so arrogant. What does he mean by this? Is he belittling us? In the universe, many geniuses roared. Lu Ming's words were blatantly belittling them. They couldn't pursue the elf princess, but Mu Yun rejected the elf princess. This was a blatant slap to their faces. This brat, I'll definitely suppress him. Arrogant just because he has a bit of strength. Just a 6th-level divine lord, what's there to be arrogant about? I can slap him to death with one hand. There was an uproar in the Dream Jade. Through the dreamy divine jade, Lu Ming could see everything clearly. However, Lu Ming was fearless. So be it, just nice to give him pressure and let him break through quickly. You guys, if you want to spar with me, it's fine too. My cultivation is at the 6th-level Divine Lord realm. As long as you guys are below the Divine Emperor realm, I'll accept it. Lu Ming continued to speak. His words directly blocked the mouths of those Divine Emperor realm geniuses. He made it clear that his cultivation was only at the 6th-level Divine Lord realm. He would accept anyone below the Divine Emperor realm. As for those above the Divine Emperor realm, you still have the nerve to come? Chapter 3788. To put it bluntly, Lu Ming was challenging all the Divine Lords in the universe. Quasi-emperors were actually considered within the Divine Lord realm. Since these people wanted to deal with him, Lu Ming was not afraid and directly issued a challenge. He could use the pressure of these people to stimulate his potential and allow him to break through faster. Moreover, taking the initiative to issue a challenge would allow him to take the initiative, making the geniuses above the Divine Lord realm embarrassed to make a move. Otherwise, if those above the Divine Lord realm were to make a move, he would not be a match at all. Lu Ming's words caused an uproar. What guts? Is he challenging all the Divine Lords? Does he think that just because he defeated Xiao Dao, he is invincible among the Divine Lords? He doesn't know that there is always someone better. Many of the top monsters have not made a move yet. That's right, some of the top monsters of the top 100 races have not made a move, not to mention the monsters of the top 10 races. The monsters of the top 10 races usually don't make a move. Even so, the other top monsters are more than enough to kill him. The dream space was in an uproar. Among the various races in the universe, there were young monsters who were deep in thought. Interesting, this Mu Yun, I'll go and meet him. On the home planet of the heavenly silkworm race, ranked 26th on the great desolate 10,000 races list, a white-haired, white-browed youth in a white robe chuckled. He looked at the portrait of Mu Yun in the dream space with great interest. Ling Yuwei is my woman, no one can take her away. This kid dares to blaspheme my woman, he deserves to be killed. Among the top 100 races, a terrifying genius's cold voice rang out, his killing intent as cold as a blade. Let's go and take a look. It's been a long time since I exercised. Before I break through to the Divine Lord realm, I can exercise and kill a top monster to pave the way for my invincible path. One by one, the top monsters of the powerful races walked out and headed towards the Iron Sea star field. However, Lu Ming issued another sentence in the dream space. We will fight again in 3 years. After saying this, Lu Ming left his residence and disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. Yes, Lu Ming had no intention of fighting now. If he were to fight now, he had no confidence at all. Through the illusory divine jade, Lu Ming learned that the broken saber was only slightly famous among the quasi-emperors of the great desolate universe in the Purple Sun province, not the strongest. As for him, when he was fighting with Xiao Dao, he had almost used his full strength. At most, there was still the battle art that hadn't been activated yet. However, the probability of activating it was only 1 in 10. If he were to encounter a quasi-emperor realm genius who was stronger than Xiao Dao and the others, he would definitely not be a match for them. Therefore, he planned to find a place to cultivate for a period of time and increase his foundation before fighting these people again. Therefore, it was set to be 3 years later. Nest. At the sight of Lu Ming's departure, the paragons could not help but curse. However, these people did not stop. Instead, they continued to head towards the Iron Sea star region. This was because some people speculated that the elven princess Ling Yuwei was in the Iron Sea star region. This was a rare opportunity. Normally, it wouldn't be that easy to meet the elven princess Ling Yuwei. For a time, the Iron Sea star region became lively. One by one, the geniuses of the powerful races rushed over and appeared in this star sea. As for the 18 forces of the Iron Sea star region, they all took action and used all their methods to befriend these geniuses. For a time, the geniuses of the Iron Sea star region gathered. As for Lu Ming, he had already left the Iron Sea star region. He arrived at a strange galaxy. This galaxy was known as the Gale Galaxy, because inside, the entire galaxy was surrounded by a strange wind. This wind was scorching hot and filled with destructive power, so it was called the Gale Galaxy. The gale of the Gale Galaxy was incomparably terrifying. It could destroy planets and tear apart the void. The entire Gale Galaxy was dead silent. There were no forces here. Occasionally, people would come to train and explore the unique treasures of the Gale Galaxy, the Gale Stone. Of course, Lu Ming didn't come for the Gale Stone. He came here to use the Gale to stimulate his potential and achieve a breakthrough. Since being beaten up could achieve a breakthrough, then cultivating with the terrifying Gale should also be able to stimulate one's potential. Were they all abused? Lu Ming thought helplessly. In the next moment, Lu Ming rushed in. The Gale swept through Lu Ming's body like countless sharp blades, cutting Lu Ming's body. At the same time, the temperature was shockingly high, wanting to burn Lu Ming. However, this Gale that could destroy divine weapons didn't leave a trace on Lu Ming's body. The power is far from enough. I have to go deeper. Lu Ming pondered. The Gale Galaxy had a core. In the core area, the power of the Gale would be even stronger. Lu Ming flew in the direction where the Gale was stronger. The stronger it was, the closer it was to the core. Slowly, the power of the Gale became stronger and stronger. Here, even if a 7th or 8th layer Divine Lord entered, it would be very dangerous and would be swept away and killed by the Gale. However, it still didn't cause any harm to Lu Ming. It didn't even break the surface of his skin. Lu Ming didn't even take the initiative to defend, just relying on the defense of his body. He could only continue moving forward. The area of a galaxy was very vast. Lu Ming increased his speed, and the distance of hundreds of millions of miles was crossed in the blink of an eye. There's actually a planet. Lu Ming was slightly stunned. In the starry sky, he saw a planet, but this planet was very small. It was hundreds of millions of times smaller than an ordinary planet. It can actually be preserved in the Gale. It's really rare. The material must be extraordinary. Let's go take a look. Lu Ming's heart stirred and flew toward the planet. Although it was called a planet, it was very small in size, similar to a meteorite. Endless gale swept across the planet, making clanging sounds. On the planet, there was naturally no grass, no living creatures, and no mission plants. Lu Ming landed on the planet and carefully sensed it. It's all made of metal ores. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. This planet was completely made of metal ores, and it was incomparably hard. It was no wonder it could be preserved in such a cruel environment. I'll eat. Chiu flew out, opened its mouth, and began to chew on the planet. With a crunch, a large piece was bitten off. Chiu's speed was very fast, and it soon bit open a huge passage that led to the planet's core. The closer it was to the core, the harder it was, and the more metal it contained. Lu Ming couldn't identify what metal it was, but he could feel that this metal was no small matter. At the very least, it could be used to refine a monarch-grade divine artifact. Chiu ate faster and faster. Suddenly, there was a crack, and a dark passage appeared in front of him. There was actually a passage under this planet. Lu Ming was shocked. Who is it? A cold shout was heard. Then, with a flash, several figures appeared. Chapter 3789. Several figures suddenly appeared in the passage. There were 3 of them, 3 middle-aged men. Each of them was wearing metal armor and wielding a metal spear. Their eyes were cold as they looked at Lu Ming and Chiu. At this time, Chiu was gnawing on the metal ore. After a few bites, a large hole appeared. The 3 middle-aged men's expressions changed, and then they revealed a scorching light. What a powerful metal life form. It eats metal like tofu. This is definitely a high-level metal life form. The 3 middle-aged men's eyes were incomparably bright as they stared at Chiu. They wished they could take Chiu for themselves. After looking at Chiu for a while, their gazes landed on Lu Ming. 6th level Divine Lord? The 3 middle-aged men were startled. For a 6th level Divine Lord to be able to reach here, he should have a treasure that can defend against the gale. Kid, we've taken a liking to your metal life form. Leave it behind and scram. The middle-aged man in the middle berated Lu Ming. He had a scar on his face that made him look sinister and terrifying. You've taken a liking to Chiu? Lu Ming was speechless. However, he had already discovered that these 3 middle-aged men were all quasi-emperors. Lu Ming didn't place ordinary quasi-emperors in his eyes. If they were monstrous geniuses, it was impossible for them to still be quasi-emperors at this age. Chiu, let's go. Lu Ming called out to Chiu. It was naturally impossible for him to give Chiu to them. But Lu Ming didn't want to cause trouble. After all, he had come to the Gale Star River to cultivate. Furthermore, from the looks of it, they should be mining this metal here. Perhaps there were even stronger people. If a powerful divine lord appeared, it would be troublesome. So Lu Ming planned to leave. Eat, I want to eat. This place is delicious. Chiu was unwilling and continued to gnaw. As for the 3 middle-aged men, they revealed sinister expressions. The middle-aged man said, Kid, I told you to hand over the metal life form. Didn't you hear me? It seems you don't want to live anymore. Chiu, we'll find other metals for you to eat later. Let's go first. Lu Ming continued to ignore him and walked towards Chiu, intending to take him away. The killing intent of the 3 middle-aged men exploded. Brat, since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. The man on the left roared, his killing intent surging like a tide. His tall and sturdy body moved, and his armor clanged. The metal spear in his hand whistled through the air as it pierced towards Lu Ming. Its power was astonishing. However, no matter how powerful it was only at the quasi-emperor level. Clang. Lu Ming turned around and punched the long spear, causing the other party's long spear to vibrate. The middle-aged burly man's figure could not help but retreat continuously. Well, the other 2 were shocked. Lu Ming had actually repelled the middle-aged man's attack with a single punch. For a 6th-level divine lord to be able to push back a quasi-emperor, even though the middle-aged man did not use his full strength earlier, it was still no small matter. I was already merciful just now. If you continue to act recklessly, don't blame me for being merciless. Lu Ming said with a cold face. Brat, you're courting death. Big brother, second brother, attack together and kill this person. The man who was pushed back was enraged. Attack! The remaining 2 middle-aged men were very decisive and attacked at the same time. Their spears pierced through the air and shot towards Lu Ming, aiming for his heart and head respectively. The man who was pushed back also attacked, stabbing towards Lu Ming's throat. This time, the three middle-aged men used their full strength. "You're courting death." Lu Ming's face turned completely cold, his eyes bursting with killing intent. He had already endured and yielded time and time again, but these people wanted a yard after taking an inch. Not only did they want to take Qiuqiu away, they also wanted to kill him. Thus, he could only kill them. Buzz. A spear light appeared in Lu Ming's hand. This was a spear light condensed from a secret spear technique. It was incomparably sharp and comparable to a true divine spear. Swish, swish, swish. Lu Ming's spear trembled, and three spear lights burst out, stabbing towards the three middle-aged men. Blood splattered everywhere as the three spear lights accurately pierced the glabella of the three middle-aged men. The three middle-aged men's eyes widened in disbelief. The three quasi-emperors attacked together with great coordination and were about to kill Lu Ming. They did not expect Lu Ming to attack at such an astonishing speed and kill them in one fell swoop. What was going on? How was this possible? They fell limply to the ground, no longer breathing. Their souls had been destroyed by Lu Ming just now. "You're courting death." Just then, a tyrannical roar came from the depths of the passage. Then, a huge aura rushed over in a frenzy. "Divine Emperor!" Lu Ming's expression changed. This aura was the aura of a divine emperor. Sure enough, the three middle-aged men were not the only ones mining here. There were even stronger people. "Qiuqiu, let's go." Lu Ming rolled up Qiuqiu with his divine power and quickly retreated. He did not know how many experts there were. If there were only one or two ordinary first-layer divine emperors, he would not be afraid. However, if there were stronger experts, he would be in trouble. As Lu Ming retreated, the tyrannical aura in front of him rolled over at an extremely fast speed. However, Lu Ming was faster. After a few flashes, he left the passage and came to the surface of the planet. Boom! As soon as Lu Ming came to the surface of the planet, a terrible whistling sound came from behind him. A powerful force attacked Lu Ming. An expert, a divine emperor expert. Obviously, someone had appeared behind Lu Ming to kill him. The speed was so fast that Lu Ming did not even have time to activate the battle formula. Without thinking, he threw a punch behind him. Boom! There was a loud bang and a violent force swept in all directions. Lu Ming trembled violently and his body flew out horizontally. He only came to a stop after flying a few thousand meters away. At this moment, Lu Ming finally saw the appearance of the person who attacked him. It was a middle-aged man, tall and sturdy, wearing a golden armor. He had red hair and a tyrannical chi. He was a cultivator of the first-layer divine emperor layer. When the red-haired man saw that Lu Ming had survived his attack, he was astonished. A cultivator of the sixth-layer divine emperor layer had survived his attack. He had never seen someone like that before. Swish, swish, swish. A silhouette flickered and appeared in the passage Qiuqiu had just left. It was an old man, also wearing a golden armor. He looked fierce and ferocious, like a pile of iron lumps. It was the same person who had chased after Lu Ming. He was also a cultivator of the first-layer divine emperor layer. Two cultivators of the first-layer divine emperor layer surrounded Lu Ming. Swish, swish, swish. Over 100 silhouettes appeared in different directions. All of them were wearing metal battle suits. There were middle-aged men and old men. The weakest among them was a ninth-layer divine emperor layer. Most of them were quasi-emperors. Chapter 3790. Brat, to dare kill our people, courting death. That old man who chased out from behind had a cold glint in his eyes. It was your people who wanted to kill me first. Could it be that I can't retaliate? Lu Ming said coolly. If the other party only had these people, he had no fear in the slightest. Rubbish, those who killed our people will die. How can there be so many reasons? The iron-like old man was incomparably tyrannical. Taking a step forward, the ground he stepped on rumbled, a palm slamming down toward Lu Ming. Humph, really think that I'm afraid of you all? Lu Ming's eyes turned cold, having killing intent aroused. Battle character art's 5 times combat power was already triggered, a punch rumbling out. Bang! Fist and palm intersected, erupting with a horrifying shock. Following that, 2 figures retreated at the same time. What? Everyone present opened their eyes wide, revealing looks of disbelief. Lu Ming actually blocked the old man's move. Furthermore, he even repelled the other party. How was this possible? While the iron-like old man's heart was in upheaval, almost muddle-headed. Originally, he thought that a 6th-level Divine Lord existence was just a 6th-level Divine Lord existence, an existence that he could slap into ashes with one slap. He did not expect that Lu Ming was actually unbelievably powerful. The power that Lu Ming erupted with in that move earlier was completely not weaker than his. This kind of power appearing on a 6th-level Divine Lord person was simply akin to a fantasy story. This person is a monster. Let's attack together and end the battle quickly. Exterminate this person. That red-haired burly man yelled loudly, a fiery red spear appearing in his hand. Taking a step forward, his aura berserk, pressing toward Lu Ming. As for the other 100 quasi-emperors and 9th-level Divine Lords, their figures also flickered, surrounding Lu Ming in the middle, preparing to attack together and exterminate Lu Ming. Kill! Kill! 2 Divine Emperor realm powerhouses shouted loudly, attacking at the same time. Spears pierced through the air, palm prints traversed the void, rushing toward Lu Ming from 2 different directions. 2 Divine Emperors joining hands to deal with a 6th-level Divine Lord Jr. If this spread out, it would make others laugh their heads off. But they did not care at this moment. When adventuring in the wild, there was an unspoken rule. That was, once they encountered a terrifying monster, and they had already offended that monster, they had to kill that monster at all costs to silence him. That was because such monstrous geniuses usually came from powerful forces and came out to train. Once one offended the other party and did not kill the other party, one would have to wait for the other party's revenge. Therefore, this was the rule of the primitive universe. Since they had already offended Lu Ming, they had to do their best to kill Lu Ming. To be able to raise such a heaven-defying monster like Lu Ming, the power behind that person must be extremely shocking. They didn't dare to let Lu Ming leave alive. Come on! Lu Ming's eyes flashed with a strong fighting spirit. The 60 trillion cells in his body trembled, and the forbidden power spread throughout his body. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming's fists seemed to have turned into 2 planets as they smashed towards 2 different directions, colliding with the attacks of the 2 God Kings. A terrifying chi swept across the air, and huge craters appeared on the ground. One had to know that the ground there was always a strong wind blowing all year round. Only a few pieces of metal were left, and they were extremely hard. It was very difficult to mine them. Being able to create craters in the ground showed how terrifying his strength was. The 2 God Kings couldn't do anything to Lu Ming. Lu Ming's body swayed a few times, and then he stopped. This little boy, the 2 God Kings were deeply astonished, and their murderous intent became even stronger. They didn't hesitate and continued attacking Lu Ming, using their most powerful skills. No matter what, they had to kill Lu Ming. Lu Ming wasn't afraid. He shook his arms like a rock and started fighting against the 2 God Kings. Those 2 God Kings were the most ordinary cultivators of the first godly emperor layer. They were the weakest godly emperors, so Lu Ming didn't rush to use his gravity pearls. He just relied on his own strength to fight against them. Even though Lu Ming was at a disadvantage against the 2 God Kings, it wouldn't be easy for them to defeat him. They exchanged a few dozen moves, but they couldn't do anything to Lu Ming. "You guys, set up a battle formation and attack together," shouted the red-haired big man. He called for the others to join hands to kill Lu Ming. Over 100 strong cultivators immediately set up a battle formation and condensed a dazzling spear, which then shot towards Lu Ming. The battle formation of so many strong cultivators was extremely powerful. The spear they condensed was even more powerful than the red-haired big man and the old man. Lu Ming was fearless. He threw a punch at the long spear and was sent flying by the powerful force of the long spear. The elder from the Iron Tower immediately seized the opportunity and struck Lu Ming's chest with his palm. That punch could easily destroy a planet, but when it landed on Lu Ming's body, it didn't destroy Lu Ming. It only made Lu Ming's chest cave in and a few of his bones were broken. "He's injured, let's take him down in one go," the old man roared. His murderous intent surged as he charged toward Lu Ming with all his might. The palm force was like a toppling mountain and overturning sea. Xiao Qin used every bit of strength in his body. Lu Ming was too terrifying. Not only was he astonishingly strong, but his vitality and defense were monstrously strong as well. He hadn't died even after taking a direct hit from the old man. "Come!" Lu Ming's battle intent was even stronger. He activated the forbidden area and his injuries were recovering at an astonishing speed. Bzz. This time, he began to activate the gravity pearls. The 2 gravity pearls flew up into the sky, and a terrifying gravitational force came crashing down, enveloping everyone within. Immediately, screams of agony could be heard. The power of the gravity pearls was terrifying. Even divine emperors would be greatly affected. They had to circulate their divine power to resist it, let alone divine lords. Those 9th-layer divine lords couldn't resist the gravitational force of the gravity pearls. They screamed as they were pressed down by the gravitational force. Their bodies crashed heavily onto the ground and were crushed into meat paste. They died on the spot. Those quasi-emperors weren't any better. They couldn't stabilize their bodies and crashed onto the ground. They spat out mouthfuls of blood and many of their bones were broken. Then, the spatial crack engulfed these people. They were turned into ashes by the strong wind. Of the hundreds of quasi-emperors and 9th-layer divine lords, only 5 were left. These 5 were considered strong among the quasi-emperors. They barely managed to survive, but they were severely injured. Not good. The old man and the red-haired man's faces changed drastically. Even they were greatly affected by it. "Now, you're the one who's going to die," Lu Ming shouted coldly. His body was like lightning as he charged towards the old man. He punched out hundreds of times in an instant. Boom, 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 boom. Hundreds of punches blasted towards the old man. The old man roared and tried his best to resist. However, he had consumed a lot of divine power while resisting the gravitational force. He couldn't stop Lu Ming anymore. Chapter 3791. The old man used all his strength, but he couldn't stop Lu Ming's attacks. He only managed to block a few dozen of Lu Ming's punches. The rest of the punches landed on his body, face, and head. Boom. Even if the old man was a real lump of iron, he could not withstand Lu Ming's attack. He was like a balloon. With a bang, he exploded and his body and soul perished. A godly emperor had been killed by Lu Ming. It was normal. The combat power of the Xiang province was enough to kill a bottom-level divine emperor. Lu Ming's current combat power was already above that of the Xiang province. It was normal for him to suddenly activate the gravity pearl and kill the metallic old man. The red-haired man was so scared that his pupils shrank, and he quickly retreated. However, Lu Ming wouldn't let him go so easily. He chased after him. "Watch out!" sighed. At that moment, Gu Mo's voice resonated in Lu Ming's head. Lu Ming didn't even think and threw a punch to the left. Boom! Lu Ming sensed that a spear had collided with his fist. Then, a terrifying strength moved towards Lu Ming. Gotcha! Lu Ming's fist was pierced through. His bones were broken and he was pushed back. However, the sharp force was still charging toward Lu Ming. It was terrifyingly fast and powerful. It was way more powerful than the red-haired burly man and the old man with the lump of metal. At that moment, Lu Ming saw the enemy's face. It was an old man with white hair and a sharp face. His eyes were filled with murder. Second godly emperor layer. His chi was definitely that of the second godly emperor layer. As expected, the enemy was stronger than him. Lu Ming couldn't compete with such a strong cultivator. However, Lu Ming still had some trump cards. Qiuqiu. With a thought, Lu Ming caused Qiuqiu to squirm and transform into a suit of armor that covered Lu Ming's entire body. At the same time, Qiuqiu transformed into a sword in Lu Ming's hand. Clang. Lu Ming exerted all his strength and slashed at the opponent's spear. Boom. With a deafening boom, Lu Ming's figure retreated explosively. However, this time, he managed to block the other party's attack, causing the other party's figure to stop. Qiu was already on the verge of breaking through to the godly emperor realm. He was very strong and could kill godly emperors on his own. With Lu Ming's help, his battle prowess skyrocketed. What a powerful metallic life form! The all-faced elder stared fervently at Lu Ming and Qiu, who was on his body, with a look of greed. With this metallic life form, our iron chain pirates will be like a tiger that has grown wings when it comes to excavating metallic materials. Ha! The all-faced old man laughed loudly. So you're from the interstellar pirates? Lu Ming's heart shook. He smiled coldly and said, "Old man, do you really think you can defeat me? Little boy, I know you're a genius from a powerful group. You have incredible battle prowess, but we're not afraid. We have so many people, do you think we can't kill you?" The all-faced old man smiled coldly. Unknowingly, more people appeared around them. Some of them were quasi-emperors and godly emperors of the 9th layer, but they didn't dare get close. They stood far away from the gravity pearl. However, there were 5 people around Lu Ming, including the red-haired big man. The red-haired big man, the all-faced old man, and the other 3 people were all godly emperors. However, Lu Ming sensed that they were all at the 1st layer of the godly emperor realm. Only the all-faced old man was at the 2nd layer of the godly emperor realm. 1 at the 2nd layer of the godly emperor realm and 4 at the 1st layer of the godly emperor realm. Indeed, it was more than enough to kill Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming looked calm and said, "Do you have more people? Come out together, otherwise, you won't be able to kill me." Shameless boasting. The all-faced old man didn't waste any more time. His silhouette flickered and he raised his spear, aiming it at Lu Ming's forehead. The other 4 divine emperors also charged toward Lu Ming, unleashing their killer moves. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with killing intent as he communicated with Qiu. Then Qiu's body also changed. The sword in his hand quickly turned into a silver spear. That spear looked exactly like the silver spear he had obtained in the capital of Tianyu Divine Country. After Qiu refined it, he could turn it into a silver spear. That silver spear was no small matter. Back then, many godly emperors had fought over it. After Qiu refined it, Lu Ming hadn't tested the power of Qiu's spear. Bush. Lu Ming's arm shook and 5 beams of spear gleams burst forth. The 5 spear lights were silvery white and looked like moonlight. One of the spear lights was the strongest, and it moved towards the all-faced old man. The other 4 spear lights were a bit weaker and they moved towards the other 4 godly emperors. Bearing the brunt of the attack, the strongest moonlight spear glow collided with the spear of the old man, resulting in a shocking explosion. From afar, it looked like a moon had exploded, and the entire sky was filled with pure white moonlight. In the moonlight, a silhouette was pushed back a dozen steps. It was the all-faced old man. A cultivator of the 2nd godly emperor layer had been pushed back. At the same time, Lu Ming was also pushed back. A moment later, the 4 weaker spear lights collided with the 4 godly emperors of the 1st godly emperor layer. The 4 godly emperors coughed up blood and were pushed back. How powerful! Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The moonlight didn't come from him, it was the silver spear's own strength. After Qiu had refined it, it had been released naturally. With Lu Ming's strength, he had pushed the all-faced old man back and injured the 4 godly emperors of the 1st godly emperor layer. Lu Ming hadn't expected that. "Die!" shouted Lu Ming extremely loudly. This time, he didn't attack the all-faced old man, he attacked the 4 godly emperors of the 1st godly emperor layer. This time, he used all his strength to attack the 4 godly emperors of the 1st godly emperor layer. "How dare you!" shouted the all-faced old man furiously. He threw himself at Lu Ming. But Lu Ming didn't care about his attacks. He wanted to take the all-faced old man's attacks head-on. The 4 moonlight lights were dazzling and extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of the 4 godly emperors of the 1st godly emperor layer. The 4 godly emperors of the 1st godly emperor layer were oppressed by the gravity pearls. They wanted to dodge, but they couldn't. Boom, boom, boom. After 4 explosions, the 4 godly emperors were seriously injured. They coughed up blood and a hole appeared in their bodies. At the same time, the all-faced old man's attacks also landed on Lu Ming. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Qiuqiu's armor was extremely strong. It kept resisting the all-faced old man's attacks. But in the end, it was still broken, but its power was reduced by half. The remaining power also pierced through Lu Ming's body, creating a bloody hole that penetrated from the front to the back. Lu Ming's body was sent flying forward by the blast. Chapter 3792. Lu Ming's body was pierced by the spear and he was sent flying. However, because Qiuqiu had blocked most of the attack, Lu Ming was able to block the attack in the end. He wasn't seriously injured. That attack could kill ordinary cultivators of the first godly emperor layer, but it didn't kill Lu Ming. Lu Ming made use of this force and dashed toward the 4 experts of the first god emperor realm at an even faster speed. Not good. Retreat. All of you retreat. The all-faced old man roared. The expressions of the other 4 also changed drastically. The 4 cultivators of the first godly emperor layer had been severely injured by Lu Ming's attack. Their qi was weak and they couldn't block Lu Ming's attack. They tried their best to retreat, but they were too slow. Swish, 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 swish. The silver spear shook and 4 moonlight spear lights shot towards the 4 cultivators of the first godly emperor layer. This time, the 4 cultivators of the first godly emperor layer couldn't dodge the attack. The 4 cultivators of the first godly emperor layer were pierced through by the moonlight spear. Their souls were destroyed. For god emperors had fallen. Ah, little bastard, I'm going to make you beg for death. The all-faced old man roared madly, his eyes bloodshot. These 4 were his strongest subordinates. Including the god king from before, he had 5 god kings. All of them were killed by Lu Ming. If he wanted to expand to such a scale in the future, he didn't know how much resources and effort it would take. His heart was dripping blood as he roared. He wanted nothing more than to cut Lu Ming into 1,000 pieces. The all-faced old man's divine power burned like flames. The spear in his hand was billions of miles long. It pierced through the void and stabbed towards Lu Ming. Even the strong winds in the void were shaken away. Wherever the spear passed, a calm void appeared. Come on! In Lu Ming's eyes, a strong fighting spirit appeared. His body, which had been pierced by the all-faced old man, had already recovered by more than half. It did not affect his strength at all. Lu Ming held the silver spear in his hand and charged towards the all-faced elder. The silver spear was suffused with strands of lightning, adding to the power of the silver spear. This was another of Qiuqiu's abilities. As his cultivation increased, so did its power. Clang. The silver spear and the long spear collided accurately. Rings of energy ripples burst out from the collision, sweeping across the starry sky and stirring up the surrounding strong winds. The silver spear and the long spear vibrated violently, and the 2 figures retreated at the same time. However, before they could retreat far, the 2 of them stepped into the void. The void was like flat ground, exploding from their stomps. The 2 of them borrowed the force of the explosion to charge at each other at an even more astonishing speed, continuing to fight. A silver spear and a metal-long spear collided continuously. The 2 of them circulated their strength to the extreme. However, now that Lu Ming had gathered all his strength, and with the help of the gravity orb, his overall combat strength had vaguely surpassed that of the all-faced elder. The more the all-faced elder fought, the more afraid he became. Lu Ming's strength was too astonishing. Lu Ming and Qiuqiu's combat strength was actually on par with his, and even surpassed his. This was really unbelievable, but it was the truth. Clang. The 2 of them exchanged another blow. At this moment, Lu Ming's left hand suddenly slapped out. In this slap, Lu Ming released all the various secret techniques contained in his cells. There were vines, chains, ropes, ceiling towers, and so on to trap the enemy. There were even more offensive techniques, such as the roar of the 9-clawed dragon, the clashing of swords and sabers, all kinds of fire and hail, and so on. Hundreds of secret techniques surged towards the all-faced elder at the same time. The all-faced elder was stunned and stunned. He had never seen or heard of anyone who could use hundreds of secret techniques in one move. What was going on? Naturally, he did not know that this was the effect of the taboo body. In fact, many people in the universe had heard of the taboo place, but there were very few who truly knew what was special about the taboo body and what was so heaven-defying about it. Only a few of the top bosses in the universe knew a little about it. Most people had only heard of the term taboo body, but they did not know the effects of the taboo body at all. With the all-faced elder's status, it was naturally impossible for him to know. That was why he was so stunned. While he was stunned, he was shrouded by the dense array of secret techniques. Not good. At this moment, the all-faced elder finally reacted. His expression changed drastically, and he unleashed all his strength. The spear swept across the army, and all kinds of secret techniques were destroyed. However, how could Lu Ming miss such an opportunity? The silver spear pierced towards the all-faced elder's forehead with all his strength. The terrifying murderous aura caused the all-faced elder to have goosebumps all over his body. He felt a chill in his heart, and he felt the threat of death. At this critical moment, the all-faced elder let out a strange cry, and his body turned into a strange bird. The strange bird's body was small, and it suddenly darted forward, avoiding the vital parts of his body, and the silver spear pierced his body. Blood splattered everywhere, and feathers swirled in the air. The all-faced elder screamed, but he was not killed. He went all out, and divine power burned all over his body. Like a javelin, he rushed forward, and with a whoosh, he flew a few thousand miles away. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. He stepped into the void and chased after the all-faced elder. The all-faced elder was frightened out of his wits. He burned his divine power with all his might, not daring to stay any longer. He broke through the strong wind and flew toward the universe at an astonishing speed. Lu Ming could not catch up with him for a while. Run! Originally, there were many of the all-faced elder's subordinates in all directions, and they were all below the divine emperor level. At this moment, when they saw that 5 divine emperors had been killed, and even their leader, the all-faced elder, had been severely injured and was running for his life, they did not dare to stay. They all ran away frantically. Everybody dispersed in an uproar. Lu Ming didn't feel like paying attention to those small fries. He focused on chasing the all-faced elder. But the all-faced elder was really going all out. He flapped his wings, and his speed was incredible. After all, he was a cultivator of the second godly emperor layer. Even though Lu Ming was relying on Qiu Qiu's silver spear, he wasn't any weaker than the all-faced elder. However, in terms of speed, Qiu Qiu couldn't help him much. He could only rely on his own speed to catch up with the all-faced elder. The distance between them was getting bigger and bigger. Forget it. After chasing for a while, Lu Ming realized he couldn't catch up, so he stopped. I want to eat. As soon as it stopped, Qiu Qiu cried out again. You're really greedy. Go and eat. Lu Ming smiled and returned to the metal planet. This time, nobody stopped him, and Qiu Qiu ate to his heart's content. Lu Ming, on the other hand, was outside the planet. He made use of the strong winds to train himself, stimulate his potential, and focus on cultivation. Chapter 3793. Qiu Qiu swallowed the metal at an extremely fast speed. Lu Ming could only watch as the planet shrank in size. Of course, this was because the planet was small to begin with, just like a meteorite. In just half a month, the entire planet had been swallowed by Qiu Qiu, leaving nothing behind. After swallowing the entire planet, Qiu Qiu's body emitted a metallic luster as it floated in the air, motionless. Lu Ming could tell at a glance that Qiu Qiu was about to evolve. Originally, Qiu Qiu had been close to evolving after eating some purple moon godly metal and purple moon mother steel. It only needed a little more time to completely refine the energy of the purple moon mother steel. Then it would definitely evolve and break through to the divine emperor realm. But now, after swallowing the entire strange metal planet, Qiu Qiu immediately began to evolve. That was because its accumulation was just too strong, so strong that it was about to overflow. This guy. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. He couldn't evolve here because the gale here was too weak. His cultivation speed was very slow. Lu Ming wanted to continue towards the center of the Gale Star River. Lu Ming took out a chain-shaped divine tool and wrapped it around Qiuqiu, pulling it towards the depths of the Gale Star River. There were no other abnormalities along the way. In truth, there weren't many people who ventured into the Gale Star River to search for treasures because it was too dangerous. Half a month later, Lu Ming brought Qiuqiu and flew for an unknown distance. They were already very close to the center of the Gale Star River. The gale here was shockingly strong. When it hit Lu Ming's skin was directly cut open, leaving wounds on Lu Ming's body. And this was the result of Lu Ming resisting with all his strength. From this, it could be seen how powerful the gale here was. Even a quasi-emperor would be turned to ashes in an instant. Only experts above the divine emperor realm could stay here. Let's do it here. Lu Ming stopped and put Qiuqiu to the side. The gale blew against Qiuqiu, making clanging sounds, but it didn't affect Qiuqiu in the slightest. Lu Ming sat cross-legged in the air. Borrowing the power of the strong winds, he stimulated his potential and quietly cultivated. The power of the gale made Lu Ming feel threatened at all times. Of course, this also made it easier to stimulate his potential. The potential stored in all the cells in his body was slowly being stimulated. His body was slowly transforming. Time passed day by day. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had been in the Gale Galaxy for a year and a half. On this day, Lu Ming suddenly opened his eyes. His gaze was like a divine sword as his aura soared into the sky. Lu Ming suddenly rushed up and punched out with both fists. The void shook violently, and an endless gale was driven by the fist energy, sweeping in all directions like a hurricane. In the next moment, Lu Ming stopped. His aura also went into hiding. 7th level Divine Monarch. Entering for a year and a half, Lu Ming's cultivation broke through, breaking through from level 6 Divine Lord to level 7 Divine Lord. His combat power skyrocketed. This speed was already very astonishing. Of course, Lu Ming's current cultivation was extraordinary. As long as there was enough energy and enough pressure on him, his cultivation could continuously increase. Qiuqiu's aura is also much stronger. It's probably going to complete its evolution soon too. Lu Ming looked at Qiuqiu, revealing a look of anticipation. Compared to more than a year ago, Qiuqiu's size had become much larger. Its aura was also much stronger, showing signs of rushing out. Lu Ming knew that Qiuqiu was also about to complete its evolution. Now was not the time to move. Lu Ming originally wanted to bring Qiuqiu and continue deeper into the Gale Galaxy. Because as his cultivation broke through, the gale here no longer pressured him enough. He needed to find stronger gale to stimulate his potential. But now, he could only wait for Qiuqiu to evolve before moving forward. Let's refine the gravity pearl first. Lu Ming's heart stirred. After breaking through to the 7th level Divine Lord realm, could he refine one more gravity pearl? Every additional gravity pearl, once activated, would cause the gravity to skyrocket. It would also be of great help to Lu Ming's combat strength. Lu Ming began to blood bond with the 3rd gravity pearl. It really works. A few days later, Lu Ming felt that it was indeed possible. Lu Ming continued to work hard. After a few more days, Lu Ming succeeded in blood bonding. Buzz buzz buzz. Lu Ming activated the gravity pearls. 3 gravity pearls flew high into the sky. A powerful gravity erupted. Under the terrifying gravity, space constantly distorted as if it could not withstand it. The powerful gale was also greatly affected. Under the effect of gravity, its speed became extremely slow. What a powerful gravity! Compared to when I had 2 gravity pearls, the gravity has increased by 10 times. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Sure enough, every time he refined an additional gravity orb, the gravity would be 10 times stronger than before. Now, with 3 gravity pearls at the same time, the gravity was terrifying. Ordinary emperors would definitely die under the pressure. Even cultivators of the first godly emperor layer would be injured under the pressure of the gravity pearls. Before, when he used 2 gravity pearls at the same time, he could affect cultivators of the first godly emperor layer. Now, with 3 gravity pearls at the same time, a cultivator of the first godly emperor layer would be seriously injured. With the 3 gravity pearls, Lu Ming's combat ability had increased by a huge margin. It was much more powerful than before. At that moment, Lu Ming could easily kill ordinary cultivators of the first godly emperor layer. Even if he encountered cultivators of the second godly desolate layer like the old man, he could still fight against them. If he cooperated with Qiu, killing them wouldn't be difficult. Of course, that was only before Qiu had broken through. After that, there was no need to talk about it. I wonder if I can refine 4 gravity pearls? Lu Ming's heart was burning with excitement. He looked at the 4th gravity pearl. With each additional gravity pearl, the gravity was 10 times stronger. If he could refine the 4th one, how terrifying would the gravity be? He could easily kill a cultivator of the first godly emperor layer. However, when Lu Ming tried to refine the 4th gravity pearl, it felt like a gigantic planet was in front of him. He couldn't move it at all. Not to mention refining it. Lu Ming had the feeling that even if he broke through to the 8th godly emperor layer, he wouldn't be able to refine the 4th gravity pearl. Lu Ming had no choice but to give up on that idea. Boom! At that instant, a terrifying aura burst out from the crowd. It came from Qiu. Qiu was about to break through. Lu Ming was overjoyed. At that moment, Qiu's qi was terrifying. His body kept moving. Sometimes he turned into a sword, sometimes he turned into a saber, sometimes he turned into a silver spear. They were all the treasures Qiu had absorbed. As time passed, Qiu's qi became stronger and stronger. In the end, it seemed like it had broken through a certain threshold. A terrifying oppressive energy exploded. Imperial-level oppressive energy. Qiu had broken through to the godly emperor layer. He now had the strength of the first godly emperor layer. Chapter 3794. Qiu's cultivation had reached the first layer of the godly emperor realm. However, Qiu's qi didn't stop there. It continued to rise. Can it continue to break through? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Previously, Qiu had broken through several levels at once, but that was when its cultivation was still low, and its accumulation was too strong. But could it continue to rise in the godly emperor realm? Lu Ming knew that Qiu's accumulation this time was also very strong. The purple moon mother steel was enough for it to break through, and then it had swallowed an entire planet. How strong was its energy? It was unimaginable. Even if it could continue to break through, it wasn't impossible. Lu Ming waited patiently. Qiu's qi grew stronger and stronger. In the blink of an eye, another month passed. Qiu's qi had reached its peak. Boom! Qiu's qi suddenly rose by another level. Second layer of the godly emperor realm. Qiu had really broken through to the second layer of the godly emperor realm. After reaching the second layer of the godly emperor realm, Qiu's qi finally stabilized. After a while, the balloon's qi disappeared and it flew happily toward Lu Ming. Qiu, you're amazing. You've reached the second layer of the godly emperor realm. Lu Ming pretended to be envious. In fact, he really was envious. He had broken through quickly enough, but Qiu was even more heaven-defying. As long as it had good treasures, its cultivation would soar like a rocket. It was much faster than him. Qiu had reached the second layer of the godly emperor realm, so he didn't know how strong it was. In any case, Lu Ming couldn't defeat it even if he used all his tricks. It would be a great help to Lu Ming. Let's go. Let's keep going. Lu Ming said to Qiu. He had made a promise of 3 years to the various geniuses. There was still more than a year left. He wanted to use this time to increase his cultivation and see if he could break through to the 8th layer of the godly emperor realm. Of course, the higher one's cultivation was, the harder it was to break through. It was almost impossible to break through to the 8th layer of the godly emperor realm in a year. But it was better to improve a little, right? Qiu turned back into a bracelet and wore it on Lu Ming's wrist. The two of them flew together. This place was already close to the center of the Gale Galaxy. As the two of them went deeper, the power of the Gale grew stronger. However, it still hadn't met Lu Ming's requirements. Lu Ming wanted to go deeper. Swoosh. At this moment, two beams of divine light came from the other side and flew toward the center of the Gale Galaxy. They were two middle-aged men. Both of them were wearing fiery red armor. The armor was sparkling, blocking the strong wind outside. A cultivator of the second godly emperor layer and a cultivator of the first. Lu Ming's heart stirred as he sensed their cultivation bases. The two middle-aged men also saw Lu Ming, and their eyes were filled with curiosity. A 7th-level Divine Lord person is actually able to walk until here too. It's truly a miracle. He probably has treasures on him, right? Don't be a busybody. The Zephyr Palace is about to be broken. Let's get down to business first. The two of them exchanged a few words in secret. Then, they did not linger and quickly left. However, Lu Ming's ears were extremely sharp, especially since he had cultivated the celestial hearing ability. He heard their conversation clearly. Zephyr Palace? What's that? Could it be some kind of historical remnant of the Gale Galaxy? Lu Ming's mind raced. In the end, he decided to follow them. Lu Ming restrained his aura and flew behind the two middle-aged men. 2 hours later, Lu Ming saw two other groups of people flying in the same direction. Obviously, they were also heading for the Zephyr Palace. Suddenly, Lu Ming saw a huge object suspended in the starry sky in front of him. This huge object was completely made of stone. From afar, it looked like a stone palace. However, the appearance of this stone palace was extremely different from that of the outside world. It looked like a palace, but there was no entrance or exit. There were no doors or windows. It looked like a huge circular fortress. There were many people around the fortress. At a glance, there were dozens of people. There was no doubt that these people were all divine emperors. Boom! Suddenly, a great battle broke out on one side of the fortress. Divine light filled the sky, and at the same time, angry roars were heard. We found the weak point of the Zephyr Palace, and we also spent a lot of effort to break it. You want to take advantage of us? No way! Someone shouted. Ha! The Zephyr Palace is not yours. It's a public area. Anyone who sees it has a share. Who can you blame for breaking the fortress? Someone responded coldly. Shameless. The people from before roared and the battle became more intense. However, after a while, the battle stopped. Because many people had surrounded them. Those who were fighting were obviously afraid of being taken advantage of and did not dare to continue fighting. Since everyone has found it, it's impossible for the Xinyuan pirate group to monopolize it. The news was leaked because there was a traitor in the Xinyuan pirate group. This is your own business. Since we're all here, we can't go back empty-handed. How about this? The Xinyuan pirate group has not completely broken the Zephyr Palace. Next, we'll work together to break the Zephyr Palace. We'll talk about the treasures inside with our strength. Everyone talked at once and came up with a plan. The people of the Xinyuan pirate group looked extremely gloomy, but they knew that since so many experts had come, it was impossible for them to monopolize it with their strength alone. They could only follow the plan. So they're all from the interstellar pirates. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. It made sense. The Zephyr Galaxy was located in a relatively remote area without any powerful forces around. It was an area where the interstellar pirates could easily survive and operate. It was normal for this place to attract many interstellar pirates. Lu Ming had a few thoughts in his mind as he approached slowly. As soon as Lu Ming approached, pairs of eyes immediately looked at Lu Ming. Hey, it's a Divine Lord kid. It's rare for a Divine Lord to be able to come here. He probably has a treasure that can withstand the Zephyr Palace. Many people were curious. Of course, there were also people who shouted, Kid, what are you doing here as a Divine Lord? Why don't you get lost? Isn't there a share here? Why can't I be here? Lu Ming replied. Everyone has a share. It also requires strength and qualifications. You're just a Divine Lord kid. What strength do you have? I'll give you one last chance. If you don't get lost, you'll stay here forever. It was the same person, a burly man with a scar on his face, who stared coldly at Lu Ming. Oh, is that so? In that case, you're not qualified to be here at all. Why don't you get lost? Lu Ming scolded lightly. This burly man with a scar was merely a first-level divine lord. Lu Ming did not care about a first-level divine lord from an interstellar pirate group. Chapter 3795. Lu Ming's words made the others stunned. Lu Ming actually dared to speak to a first-level divine lord expert like this? Was he courting death? The scar-faced man's eyes burst with icy killing intent. Lu Ming's words were clearly looking down on him. He was clearly trash and had no qualifications to be here. Preposterous. Kid, listening to your words, do you think that you're stronger than me? The scar-faced man approached Lu Ming and said with a cold smile. You can say that. Lu Ming replied indifferently. Haha. A burst of loud laughter came from the scene. Everyone at the scene laughed heartily, looking at Lu Ming as if he was a fool. Lu Ming, a 7th-level divine lord brat, actually said that he was stronger than the scar-faced man? Did he know how strong divine emperors were? How terrifying. Most likely, he completely did not know how terrifying divine emperors were. The gap between a 7th-level divine lord and a 1st-level divine lord was even greater than some chasm. Such a laughable thing could even be said. Shouldn't they laugh? Of course they should laugh. Especially the scar-faced man, he even laughed until tears came out. I even thought that you were some heavenly pride. Turns out that you're a fool. Fool, Grandpa will send you on your way now. The scar-faced man shouted coldly, a blade chopping towards Lu Ming's head, wanting to behead Lu Ming in one move. The blade light was quick, arriving above Lu Ming's head in a twinkle. Lu Ming's expression did not change in the slightest, a fist slamming out. He had long triggered the battle character art to increase his combat strength by 5 times. With a punch slamming out, the void exploded. Terrifying gales were driven by the fist force, condensing together, becoming a part of the fist force. Clang. Lu Ming's fist slammed into the scar-faced man's battle blade. The battle blade trembled crazily, then with a bang, it exploded. The berserk fist force did not stop, continuing to rumble towards the scar-faced man. The scar-faced man could no longer laugh. The smile on his face froze, replaced by astonishment. At the critical moment, he let out a roar and retreated madly. Both of his hands blasted forward, hoping to block Lu Ming's attack. However, a cracking sound could be heard as the sound of bones breaking rang out. His arms had been broken by Lu Ming, and his body was sent flying back. He slammed into the stone fortress, causing it to shake violently. Nothing happened to the fortress, but the scarred man spat out a large mouthful of blood. His face was deathly pale and his aura was weak. He had suffered heavy injuries. The scene was silent. Everyone's smiles disappeared and were replaced with astonishment and disbelief. The knife-scarred man had actually been defeated. Moreover, he had been defeated so easily by Lu Ming in one move. There was no way to block it at all. It was a complete suppression. Was this still the cultivation of a 7th-level divine lord? Everyone stared blankly at Lu Ming. They finally understood what Lu Ming's words meant. Lu Ming had said that the knife-scarred man wasn't qualified, but he was. He was indeed qualified. The knife-scarred man had said that Lu Ming wasn't qualified. That was a complete joke. Lu Ming had used his strength to prove that point. Now, do I have the qualifications? Lu Ming looked like he was talking to the knife-scarred man, but he was actually talking to the others. Yes, you are. The knife-scarred man coughed up blood and nodded. He was really scared to death. His heart was filled with fear. In the previous move, Lu Ming's ability was not something that he could resist. He knew he had really kicked an iron plate. How strong! A 7th-level divine lord is already that strong. I've never seen anyone like that before. You're qualified, said some people. Some people's eyes were glittering as they stared at Lu Ming. It was unknown what they were thinking. There weren't only cultivators of the first godly emperor layer there. There were even stronger cultivators. They were all pirates. Even though they were shocked by Lu Ming's talent, they weren't afraid of Lu Ming. Lu Ming could defeat cultivators of the first godly emperor layer, but could he defeat cultivators of the second godly emperor layer? They didn't believe it. but Lu Ming was already qualified to compete with them for the treasures. Let's discuss how to break the Zephyr Temple, suggested someone. The Zephyr Temple is covered by a strange stone. With our strength, we can't break it. But no matter how hard something is, it has a weakness. The Xan Yuan pirate group found the weakness and broke through 80% of it. As for the remaining 20%, if we join hands, we'll be able to break it quickly, said a silver-haired old man. That silver-haired old man had some prestige among the pirates. He was obviously very strong. Commander Ian is right. Let's do that. I have no objection, said the others. Only the Xan Yuan pirate group pulled a long face. But in front of so many strong cultivators, they had no choice but to agree. After they finished discussing, they moved towards the weak point. In another direction, Lu Ming saw a gigantic hole in the wall. There were cracks on the sides of the hole. Looking through the hole, Lu Ming saw that there was still a wall inside. The wall was surprisingly thick, at least 10,000 meters thick. They had already broken through 8,000 meters, there were still 2,000 meters left. Shouted the silver-haired old man. He took the initiative to attack. He raised his finger and a silver finger appeared. It looked like it was made of silver. It moved towards the remaining 2,000 meters of the wall. That's the strength of the third godly emperor layer. No, it's even stronger. When the silver-haired old man attacked, Lu Ming was astonished. The silver-haired old man's strength was unfathomable. His godly strength was incredible. Lu Ming was astonished. He was much, much stronger than the old man who had broken through to the second godly emperor layer. He probably had the strength of the third godly emperor layer. As expected, there were terrifying cultivators among those people. Attack! The others also attacked at the same time, unleashing all sorts of attacks that slammed into the remaining 2,000-meter thick wall. The wall kept exploding and shaking. Pieces of broken stone started falling down. That was because this was the weak point. If it had been any other wall, they wouldn't have been able to break it. However, the remaining 2,000 meters of the wall wasn't that easy to break. They kept attacking for half an hour and then they stopped. Attacking continuously consumed a lot of godly strength. Besides, the people there all had their own plans. They didn't want to exhaust their godly strength. When they had used half of their godly strength, they had to stop and recover. Everyone silently took out pills that could replenish their divine power and consumed them to recover. After a few hours, they had rested enough and started attacking again. Just like that, a few days later, there were only 100 meters left of the 2,000-meter stone wall. Soon, it would be broken through. At that moment, they heard some whistling sounds in the distance. A dozen silhouettes flew over. Everyone's movements involuntarily stopped. It's you! Some people's eyes twinkled as they recognized those people. They were famous pirates. Chapter 3796. It's him! Lu Ming's eyes twinkled. Among the dozen people who had arrived, Lu Ming recognized one of them. It was the old man with the conical face who had escaped before. The old man with the conical face had also noticed Lu Ming. He was fixedly staring at Lu Ming. His eyes were filled with hatred and murderous intentions. Little boy, I didn't think that you would be here. Very good, very good. The old man with the conical face was staring at Lu Ming. His voice was ice cold. Everybody could hear that his voice was filled with murderous intentions. Tai Xiong, that little boy killed 5 godly emperors from the Iron Chain Pirates? The old man with the conical face was called Tai Xiong. Next to him was a middle-aged man with a long face. Indeed, that little bastard. Even though his cultivation level is not high, he is extremely strong. He can fight against cultivators of the second godly emperor layer. Don't be careless, warned Tai Xiong. His voice was filled with hatred. The people around Lu Ming weren't surprised. They just glanced at Lu Ming. Lu Ming had defeated the scar-faced man in one move. He had already shown how strong he was. It was normal for him to be able to kill 5 strong cultivators of the Iron Chain Pirates. Interesting. Tai Xiong, what you said before, you have to keep your word, said the middle-aged man. I will keep my word. I swear on my life essence, said Tai Xiong. All right, nodded the middle-aged man. He glanced at the crowd and said, Everybody, we have a grudge against this little boy. Who is his friend? I don't know him. I have nothing to do with you. The people around Lu Ming burst into laughter and moved away from Lu Ming. They didn't know Lu Ming. Of course, they wouldn't help Lu Ming. They hoped that Lu Ming and Tai Xiong would fight to the death so that they would have fewer competitors. These people retreated silently. Lu Ming was the only one left in the spacious space. Those people stopped attacking the stone wall for the time being. They looked like they were watching a good show. Very good. The horse-faced middle-aged man, Tai Xiong, revealed a sinister smile. In the next moment, figures flickered as Tai Xiong, the horse-faced middle-aged man, and the others surrounded Lu Ming. Powerful auras as heavy as a mountain pressed down on Lu Ming. 3 cultivators of the second godly emperor layer and 7 cultivators of the first godly emperor layer. No wonder they're so confident. Lu Ming smiled faintly in his heart. The other party did not try to hide anything. He could easily sense the cultivation levels of these people. Since they knew Lu Ming was strong enough to defeat Tai Xiong, they were confident that they could kill Lu Ming because there were 3 cultivators of the second godly emperor layer. After all, Lu Ming had barely defeated Tai Xiong. He was only a little bit stronger than Tai Xiong. They had 3 cultivators of the second godly emperor layer, so killing Lu Ming was more than enough. Besides, there were 7 cultivators of the first godly emperor layer. They never thought that Lu Ming's battle prowess had already skyrocketed. It was not easy to increase one's battle prowess and cultivation level after reaching the godly emperor layer. It had been hundreds of millions of years. How long had it been? It had only been a year. How could he have broken through in such a short period of time? Little boy, I won't let you die so easily. I will seal your cultivation level and put you in the wind. I will make you suffer the pain of the wind cutting your body. Tai Xiong's face was extremely ferocious and there was a hint of excitement. It was as if he had already seen Lu Ming's miserable state of being sliced by the strong wind. That's a good idea. Unfortunately, reality is cruel. Do you know that? Lu Ming smiled faintly. Then, with a sudden movement, he charged toward Tai Xiong. Boom! Boom! As soon as he rushed out, Lu Ming threw out a few hundred punches. The terrifying fist force gathered together like a stormy sea, blasting towards Tai Xiong. However, Tai Xiong was already prepared. His metal spear pierced through the air and collided with Lu Ming's fist strength. However, as soon as they started fighting, Tai Xiong's expression changed. You broke through to the godly emperor layer, shouted Tai Xiong furiously. Die! At the same time, the horse-faced man and the others also attacked. 2 cultivators of the second godly emperor layer and 7 cultivators of the first godly emperor layer attacked Lu Ming from all directions. So many strong cultivators joining hands was terrifying. Any other cultivator of the second godly emperor layer would have been seriously injured. Lu Ming obviously wouldn't underestimate them. He released forbidden strength into the gravity pearls. Bzz, bzz, bzz. The 3 gravity pearls lit up and rose up in the air. Then, a terrifying gravity surrounded the horse-faced man, Tai Xiong and the others. 3 gravity pearls appeared at the same time. The 7 cultivators of the first godly emperor layer were affected the most. Their faces changed drastically, and their bodies emitted cracking sounds. Their bones were broken under the pressure of the gravity pearls. At the same time, their muscles, blood, internal organs, and even their souls were affected. When the gravity reached a certain level, even the smallest particles could be affected. The 7 cultivators of the first godly emperor realm were severely injured in an instant. Their secret skills were on the verge of collapsing under the pressure of gravity. Before they could reach Lu Ming, their attacks dissipated. The horse-faced man, Tai Xiong and the others of the second godly emperor layer were in a much better situation, but they were also affected. Their attacks became weaker and Lu Ming easily blocked them. Die! Lu Ming shouted and continued to attack Tai Xiong. His attacks were like a tide. Shit, the gravity is so strong. Tai Xiong's expression was extremely ugly. He waved his long spear with all his might and fought with Lu Ming. In a flash, they exchanged more than 10 attacks. Lu Ming actually faintly gained the upper hand and forced Tai Xiong to retreat. The last time Lu Ming fought with Tai Xiong, Lu Ming still needed to rely on Qiu Qiu to transform into a silver spear to fight with Tai Xiong and defeat him in the end. But in this battle, Lu Ming no longer needed to rely on Qiu Qiu to fight with Tai Xiong and even gain the upper hand. Retreat, let's retreat. Tai Xiong roared. He thought of Lu Ming's metal life form. Lu Ming's metal life form had not been used yet, but it was already so strong. If it was used, how strong would it be? He was a little scared. Retreat for what? He is strong, but if we join hands, we can kill him, shouted the horse-faced man. He held 2 sabers in his hands and slashed out with all his strength, cutting through the gravity and slashing towards Lu Ming. The fighting strength that Lu Ming displayed was similar to what Tai Xiong had described before. If the 3 of them joined hands, they would be able to defeat or even kill Lu Ming. No, he still has a trump card that he hasn't used yet. Tai Xiong shouted frantically, extremely anxious. After exchanging a move with Lu Ming, he wanted to retreat. This time, Lu Ming had exceeded his expectations. He did not expect that in just over a year, Lu Ming's fighting strength would increase explosively again. He knew that if they joined hands, they would no longer be a match for Lu Ming. It's too late to leave now, Lu Ming said coldly. Then, the ball on his wrist wriggled and turned into a silver spear. Chapter 3797. On Lu Ming's wrist, Qiu Qiu turned into a silver spear and was held in Lu Ming's hand. A moonlight spear light burst out. It was incomparably dazzling, as if it had pierced through the starry sky and pierced towards Tai Xiong. Fast, it was extremely fast. In a flash, it arrived in front of Tai Xiong. Tai Xiong's expression changed drastically. He roared furiously and released all his strength. He poured all his divine power into the metal spear and stabbed it with all his might, hoping to block the moonlight spear light. Clang! The tip of the spear and the tip of the spear collided. Then, the tip of the metal spear shattered at a speed visible to the naked eye. Then the entire spear shattered in an instant. The moonlight spear light didn't stop, piercing through Tai Xiong's forehead. How is this possible? Tai Xiong roared furiously. His eyes were wide open and his face was filled with disbelief. Originally, he thought that even if Lu Ming's strength had increased greatly, even if he had the help of the metal life form, even if he was stronger than him, there should be a limit to his strength. How could he have killed him in one move? The light in his eyes dimmed. He couldn't figure it out until he died. Of course, he didn't know that last time, Qiu Qiu was only at the quasi-emperor realm. Now, he was already at the 2nd godly emperor realm. His strength had undergone an earth-shattering change. Killing him would only take one move. Besides, Lu Ming had told Qiu Qiu not to use his full strength, only a part of his strength. Along the way, Lu Ming understood that he had to keep a trump card at all times. It could save his life at a critical moment. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he couldn't easily expose all his trump cards. As long as he could kill Tai Xiong, that was enough. How is this possible? Lu Ming had killed Tai Xiong in one move. The horse-faced middle-aged man and the others were stunned. For a moment, they couldn't wrap their heads around it. Lu Ming wouldn't give them a chance. Bush. 2 more spear lights burst forth, piercing towards the horse-faced middle-aged man and the other cultivator of the 2nd godly emperor realm. The 2 of them seemed to have woken up from a dream. They hurriedly defended themselves, but it was too late. How much strength could they use in such a hurry? Actually, it was useless even if they could use their full strength, not to mention only a little bit of strength. The moonlight spear light flew past, and the horse-faced middle-aged man and the other 2 followed in Tai Xiong's footsteps. They were also pierced by the spear light and died on the spot. Let's go! The 7 cultivators of the 1st godly emperor layer were scared out of their wits. They started running away in all directions. Since you've already made your move, you'll have to pay the price for what you've done. Stay here. A cold and emotionless voice sounded as 7 moonlight spear lights tore through the void. The 7 cultivators of the first godly emperor layer had been injured by the gravity, so they were all killed by the moonlight spear. Lu Ming did not show any mercy, nor did he intend to let these people off. These people were all interstellar pirates. Their methods were cruel and they deserved to die. Another reason was that they were surrounded by interstellar pirates. These people bullied the weak and feared the strong. Lu Ming wanted to display his strength to intimidate these people. He wanted them to be wary of him and not dare to provoke him. This would save a lot of trouble in the future. As expected, when the people around saw that Lu Ming had killed so many cultivators, their faces were incomparably dignified. Many of them even looked terrified. Especially the scar-faced man who had provoked Lu Ming before. He was shaking from head to toe and his face was deathly pale. Now, he finally knew what kind of person he had provoked. It was simply a blessing from his ancestors that he was able to survive. What a terrifying young man. Who is this person? He has so many treasures and a powerful metal life form with him. I'm afraid he's a genius from a powerful clan. Absolutely. These people secretly discussed and decided not to provoke Lu Ming. Ha, little brother, your fighting strength is really amazing. I admire you. Tai Xiong and the others were blind to provoke you. They really deserve to die. The silver-haired old man burst into laughter, making the atmosphere a little better. Let's continue breaking the wall. Lu Ming said. All right, let's continue. The silver-haired old man said. They continued to break the wall, but gravity's heart had already changed. He now regarded Lu Ming, a divine lord realm existence, as someone that could not be provoked. The remaining 100-some meters thick wall did not stop Lu Ming's group for long. Not long after, with a boom, the stone wall was pierced through, revealing the dark space inside. This was the interior of Gale Temple. Everyone looked at each other, and then flew into the dark space in unison. Of course, they did not dare to be careless. Divine power covered their bodies and defensive divine artifacts revolved around them, ready to fight at any moment. Lu Ming had Qiuqiu transform into a suit of armor and then followed the others into the dark space. After flying in, they discovered that there were stone palaces with several passages leading in different directions. Besides this, they did not encounter any other dangers. I'll go left. I'll go right. To the center. Everyone chose a passage according to their wishes and flew in. Lu Ming casually chose the leftmost passage. The passage went straight ahead and was surrounded by stone walls. Someone had tried it and found that the walls were indestructible. After walking for half an hour, they reached the end and arrived at a vast land. On this piece of land, strong winds howled, containing a strong gale. There's actually such a land here. Could this be the core of Gale Temple? Someone asked curiously. This land was undulating. From afar, there were mountain ranges. It was no different from a world. However, not a single blade of grass grew here. There were no living creatures. It was dead silent. Everyone flew out and spread out to explore this area to see if they could find any treasures. However, after searching for a while, they found nothing. There's nothing here. How unlucky. It seems that we've made a wasted trip this time. Someone cursed in a low voice. Ah! As if in response to that person's words, a shrill scream came from afar. As soon as the scream sounded, it disappeared. Everyone's expression changed, especially the person who spoke. He was so scared that he trembled. Ah! Another scream rang out, coming from their right. From the sound of it, it was not the same person as the previous one. What's over there? Someone asked with a pale face. However, no one answered him. They also wanted to know what it was. Boom! Then, a violent explosion came from that direction. Beams of resplendent light shot into the sky. Obviously, there was a fierce battle over there. However, the battle did not last very long. It ended in just a few breaths. How is it? Everyone's expression was solemn. How could the battle end so quickly? Judging from the direction, it should be a group of people who took another passage. There were actually experts among them. Could they have been eliminated so quickly? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.